When we picked the date for this meeting, number one, we tried to avoid all conflicts at all schools in West Seattle, but I did not check with the weatherman. I was thinking clouds and rain and therefore more darkness, so we're going to see if we can do something about the shades. Hi everyone, thanks for coming. I'm Tom Redmond, Communications with Seattle Public Schools, and thanks for coming tonight. We're going to share updated information with you and ask for your feedback and input with regard to proposed BEX IV planning projects. I'd like to introduce to you tonight some of the staff of Seattle Public Schools. Bob Boucher, Deputy Interim Superintendent to your right. Peggy McAvoy, Assistant Superintendent for Operations to your left. Phil Brockman, over to your right, Executive Director, School Operations K-12. Carmela, there's Carmela Delino, Executive Director for the West Seattle region. Please hold all applause. Bob, were you okay with that? You didn't get any applause at all. Lucy Murillo, Director of Capital Projects and Planning. Lucy, there she is up front. Joe Wolf, K-12 Planning Coordinator up front at the table. Chris Richardson, Senior Facilities Planner here at the front table. And Paul Calvarisi, K-12 Planner. Board members in attendance tonight. We do have Marty. Marty is here. Marty, where are you? There she is, back here in the 5th row. You didn't get the front row VIP seat, sorry. Any other board members yet to arrive? If we see them, we'll announce them. I might add there are translators here for your convenience in several languages. If you'd raise your hands, translators, please. Okay, thank you. See them because they will have translations of the video you're going to see in a moment. Materials and handouts. The materials, and there are 4 pieces. One is the big 11 by 17, which has the agenda on the left, and we'll be going over a number of the projects in the middle. To the right, some seismic information. And on the back, you will see a map of the district with different proposed projects listed. I would like, very important for you, as you please take these home with you, but to the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see an email address so you can send more comments after tonight to us at capacity of Seattle Schools. So you'll see that email address and also the website, which has all of our handouts for tonight. And you'll see that website address there in the lower left-hand corner in blue. Another handout is the one-page informational sheet, both sides. Very important, the feedback form. Now, up above, there was a white box at the table where you picked up your handouts. It's called the feedback form deposit box. At the end of the evening, we'd like you to please deposit your comments, answers to any questions on the green sheet. Please give it to us tonight. It's important to know that FACMAC, our Facilities and Capacity Management Advisory Committee, our staff, and the school board will review all the comments. So finally, we have the question card. Now the question card will pick up during the PowerPoint presentation, so please be thinking about questions you'd like to have us answer. We'll pick representative questions to answer during that part of the program. And it's important, if you could, to please fill them out during the PowerPoint presentation, because once the PowerPoint is over, then we're going to be reading out some of the answers to these cards. Now, a really important part is the third step, which is the time at the microphone. Over to your right, against the wall, we're going to line up anyone who would like to make comments or ask questions with the microphone to our staff. just please line up, and we'll at that point we'll mention that again. So if you want to, please come up. Now we're going to limit questions or comments to 1 minute, and I'm going to ask staff to also limit their answers to 1 minute. That would be perfect, so we can get home by curfew, my curfew, yes. Now, ground rules. Just two, really. Please be respectful of everyone in the audience. Please limit your questions or comments to the 1 minute period. And during the PowerPoint, if you would please hold questions so we can get right through it. As you leave, again, please deposit the green forms. We need that from you. But you can also continue to send us comments at that capacity@seattleschools.org email address I mentioned. So I'd like to introduce to you now Assistant Superintendent for Operations, Peggy McAvoy.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for giving up an evening to have this conversation with us. It is really important that we are able to hear what your thoughts and concerns are. This is a draft. It is what we call our third iteration. We have gone out to, this will be our third round of community meetings to get feedback each time we listen. We analyze based on the data that you have given us, and we are trying to make sure that we can reach consensus on what we are planning to do, because that's really important to us. And we have heard through this time additional information from each of the constituent groups, and we've been trying to reflect that as much as possible. We will go one more time through this community meetings. We'll go to a work session with the school board, have an additional conversation based on everything that we've heard again, and let them know what that is. And then we will go to the school board with our staff recommendations in October, and that they will vote on in November. We will talk more about that. It is really important that we do hear what you want. And it's also important for us to know who's here in the audience. How many people are from West Seattle, Denny area, Denny service area? Raise your hand. Okay. How about Madison service area? Thank you. How about Aki-Karosi service area? Mercer service area? Good. How about Washington service area? Eckstein? Couple, good. And Whitman? Hamilton? Okay, that helps us frame our conversations and know where to prioritize, so thank you for that. One of the questions we also get is, okay, you've done a round of BEXs and BTAs before. Can you tell us where you're at with that? And we routinely have gotten that in most of our meetings. So in order to answer that in a more effective way, we have actually produced a very short video to kind of show you what that looks like, and hopefully this will answer all of your questions.
As are the expectations of students, parents, teachers, and staff.
I'm delighted to live in the city and actually live in an urban part of town and set up this wonderful public school. And that's not an option in a lot of other major cities in the United States. And Seattle is very, very fortunate to have many wonderful schools.
Seattle schools are renovating, retrofitting, and rebuilding aging infrastructure. Innovative new classrooms are outfitted with 21st century technologies. There is a spirit of continuous improvement in the air, with a new superintendent leading and learning himself.
So I heard about this fabulous production studio that you have here. Yeah, and I just wanted to see if maybe you could share some of the highlights. I feel it's an obligation that we have in public education, not only to provide sound curriculum and properly trained teachers, but that every student across the district has an opportunity to be in a quality learning environment that I feel is very conducive to their academic success.
Seattle's continuous improvement is powered by tax dollars at work. The Building Excellence III levy of 2007-2012, known as BEX IV, and the Buildings, Technology, and Academics II capital program of 2004-2010, known as BTA II.
How many people does it take to run a program?
Thanks to levy support, Nathan Hale High School is newly renovated with energy efficiency and seismic upgrades, and its state-of-the-art FM radio station and studios, run entirely by its tech-savvy students, now broadcast to over 250,000 listeners.
The rate at which our young people can learn and master technology is really incredible. It's their world they're growing up in, and it's our job as educators to not only take advantage of what they already know, but to really scope that out as part of a sequence through middle school and high school.
To ensure continuity in the crucial transition between middle school and high school, West Seattle now boasts an innovative, co-located pair of schools with a global focus. Chief Sealth International High School and Denny International Middle School offer a coordinated curriculum and classes in Mandarin and Chinese and a host of other languages as well.
It is an amazing, beautiful space in the middle of a lot of chaos sometimes. And this is a really safe place for a lot of kids to be.
For teachers like Kristen Nichols, the learning begins with the learning environment. At South Shore K-8 School, newly constructed with BEX III funding, the pride shows.
Our kids come from a number of different backgrounds and experiences, and for them to come into this amazing, beautiful space that is for them to learn, I'm able to use that as a life lesson. This is theirs to take care of.
For Kristen's principal, Keisha Starling, the investment in a best-in-class new building is a vote of confidence for the neighborhood she's called home her entire life.
Those 8th graders, when we interviewed them, that first excellent group, they said the school district really cares about us. It makes us feel like they really care about us, that they would have a beautiful school like this for us. They do this just for us.
BEX levy projects have replaced or renovated over 40 Seattle schools and continue the district's long-range plan for renewing its aging buildings. Among the highlights, at Nathan Hale High School, 75% of the building was renovated, including energy-efficient electrical and mechanical systems and seismic upgrades. Improvements include an expanded student commons and multiple small group learning areas. Denny International Middle School and Self International High School are co-located with shared science and music facilities, and state-of-the-art technology, and a new gallery of student commons connecting the two buildings. Campus improvements are environmentally responsible and include new athletic fields. At South Shore K-8 School, flexible learning spaces offer diverse learning options. Students can be divided into 7 learning communities. A new applied technology lab is ultra-modern, as are large students' commons, gymnasium, and library spaces. For 30 years, Seattle voters have demonstrated their support for the improvement of its school district. Seattle's 21st century learning environment is built on infrastructure, operations, and imagination, global in its focus, safe and technology savvy, and rooted, as always, in its neighborhoods and its communities.
Seattle Public Schools is an amazing place to teach. It's an amazing place to teach and to learn.
These are kind of simple things that tells kids and families in our community education is important, and we value where these kids go to school.
Again, safety, being able to provide safe learning environments for children is job one for us.
It's amazing to live in a city that continually puts kids first.
Look at our school. We have like the coolest school ever. Yeah.
So that, oops, am I on yet? On? Okay. So that is part of what our conversations have been about related to things we've already accomplished. So we want to talk about that, but we want to talk also about where we're going in the future and what does that look like. I noticed also that we were joined by Director Sherry Carr, who's in the back, so we now have two, thank you very much, directors who are also here to hear the conversation and the comments that people have. So as we're thinking about where we're going, what we're hoping to do is do very quickly an overview of what's our current situation, what are the two levy renewals that we're talking about, what are the costs to citizens. Also, we'll be talking a little bit about what your feedbacks and ideas are so that we can incorporate that into our next round of staff recommendations. So what's our current situation? Where are we at? Where are we going? Well, we've got construction and modernization funding that comes from almost entirely capital levies when we're talking about building our buildings. And there's two of them. And every 3 years we run one of them. We have Building Excellence, which is the BEX. That's the one that's coming up again here in 2013 in February that all of the community will vote on. And then also the one that we call BTA. And that's one that is usually done for smaller projects. Again, comes up every 6 years. But essentially we ask the voters every 3 years to vote on one or the other capital levies. BEX is the one coming up now. And then as far as our operating costs, which is paying for the teachers and everything else on sort of our daily basis, most of our money comes from federal, state, or local operations. But you can see our local levy pays for almost a third of all of our operating costs. And so every 3 years we have to go out for that. We'll talk about why that is in a minute. Other situation you need to know about is we have good news. We're growing as a district. And we're growing about 7,000 students in the next 10 years. And if you start to break down what does that really look like, well, it would be about 14 elementary schools if they were about 500 students each, or 10 middle schools at about 700 students each, or 5 high schools at 1,400 students each. But of course, we need a mix of all of that. And so that's really what we're thinking about as far as when we are trying to manage our growth. We know that projections are difficult. There is sort of a standard way that we do projections and a methodology that is well accepted throughout the community. We use that methodology. However, we also know that in changing our new student assignment plan to a different assignment plan, as well as looking at the current economic conditions, that's really changed how we forecast and how we're predicting how many students we may be keeping or maybe coming to our school district. So what we have done is we have put together a couple years ago now a wonderful citizens advisory group called FACMAC affectionately. That's Facilities and Capacity Management Advisory Committee. And they have worked with us relentlessly to make sure that our projections are correct, that our capacity numbers for how many students we can put in each one of our schools are correct, and then to make some recommendations for us. And I know that we have some FACMAC members here who are also joining us to listen to the conversation. Can you stand up, please? I know I've got Carl here. Anybody else here? Fiona, I thought I saw you. There you go, two of them standing together. Give them a huge round of applause, because I have to tell you that they really have been helping us frame our conversations, what we're looking at, and we could not have done it without them. And there's about 20 to 25 community members that have been helping us. So we also have been looking to the city and the county about our data, what's happening regionally, how does that impact our projections. We've hired a regional demographer who works with all of the surrounding communities to look at projections, so he's very familiar with some of our patterns here locally, and he is helping us to make sure our projections are correct. And then, of course, every year we get our October 1st enrollment count. And so that's coming up here very soon. We'll be looking at those numbers to see if in fact our projections are accurate, or if they're a little high or they're a little low in certain areas. And that will also let us know how we might need to adjust the package that we're bringing forward. If you look at this, we have talked about repeatedly a low, moderate, or high projection. And you'll see here is the moderate or high, because the school board asked us to use our first projections that we would be using, it would be the moderate projections. And so that's that blue line there, and the red line is the high level projection. And our regional demographer is the green line, which is a little bit lower. He used a slightly different formula for us. Again, we're going back to look at that. We want to make sure that it's accurate. And I will say that right now we are looking at the north side of the city and the southwest side of the city, and believing that we are going to need to use the higher level projections as we're moving forward. So just so that you know that. So good news is enrollment is growing. I think one of our challenges is the fact that we've got aging buildings. And I know that, do we have people from Arbor Heights here? They have an aging building, and we need to address that. And if we didn't have capacity challengers, we would simply be building the next building that came on the list for building conditions. Which building would be next? But we've got some challenges as far as enrollment growth, and so we're having to put that in our formula. We also know that we have got a lot of schools with portables. Anybody from Schmitz Park here? Okay. They have a lot of portables on their site. And what happens with that is that we can provide classrooms for those students.
Don't forget that Arbor Heights has portables too.
Oh, Arbor Heights has portables too, absolutely. Yeah. Arbor Heights has a significantly more. And what happens for that is it challenges their core facilities, their lunchroom, their gym, their auditorium, the number of bathrooms that they have, their playground area. And so we really need to think about that as we're working through the next BEX levy. We also have funding issues, and I've got 4 bullets listed there. Everybody knows that the state at this point is not funding basic education, so we need to deal with that. But it's also not funding the full cost of technology. A lot of districts go out for technology levies. We sort of combine ours. There's a historical decline in state funding for construction, so we're having to deal with that. All of that really challenges us, and then that is the reason that we have to go out for our BEX capital levies and our BTA. And again, both the BEX and the operations levy are up for renewal February 2013. We need to also talk about how we're stewards for the funding. And we have really looked at what we were doing right and what we needed to improve on. The school board has put in a lot more internal controls and oversight related to managing our funding and how we're doing that. We have reorganized and hired new capital staff people who are managing our capital department. We also have state experts who are coming in and reviewing what we're doing and our best practices. We want to make sure that people know how to manage the money, how to be accountable, and then we also want to make sure that if in fact they have concerns about what they're seeing there, that there is an ethics hotline that they could report into. So we put that in place also, along with the increased training that we're doing for everybody. So the capital levy, what's the focus of the capital levy this time? We've got 4 priorities that we're looking at as far as the buildings. The first one is we need to make sure that our schools are safe and secure. What we're really thinking about there is we're talking about seismic work. In case we would have an earthquake, we want to make sure that we're doing the upgrades that are necessary related to that, and that we have increased our security systems. Capacity. We need to make sure that we have more seats for all of those students. That's 7,000 students that we're predicting we'll have in the next 10 years. As far as building conditions, I think that this community knows that we have deferred maintenance, and we're trying to get back to a time where all of our buildings are to the place where the superintendent and the community can support sending every student into that school and feeling really good about that. So we're looking at that. The other challenge that we have more recently gotten is the fact that the school board passed a new school board policy that says that we need to make sure that we are thinking about equitable access of programs and services. And so we're thinking about that as we're deciding which building should be built or renovated or remodeled. So that's another lens that we're looking at our package through. And we have a STEM building here, yes? Yep. Not a permanent building yet, which is one of the concerns that we will hope we'll hear about. So we need to talk about that. What does that look like? What does equitable look like? We have special education students who have been bused all over the city based on wherever the capacity was. We need to make sure that we land them close to home also. So that's a piece of our conversations. And then finally, not totally related to construction, is the technology. We need to make sure that we are updating the technology for all of our students. People have always asked us where we spent the capital money before. As you can see, and because we're in the southwest area, about 22% of previous BEX and BTAs have been spent in this area. About 37% north of the Ship Canal totally, and 63% totally south of the Ship Canal. And so now let's get into the meat of what we're spending or proposing. The latest recommendations are. You can see the top line is close to $438 million will be for new schools or additions or modernizations. Next line is about program flexibility. What we know is that certain schools we think are going to grow to a larger number in certain areas. We want to make sure that we are building in flexibility for that. So the Capital Department has come up with an idea of building for 650 core facilities for some of our elementary schools, and if we need to, we can build to 650 students at that area. But if we don't need to, we're only going to build to 500. So it gives us a little bit of flexibility. Core will allow us, that's the lunchrooms and the cafeterias, to be able to host at least 650. Right now we think we may only need 500. But we've got some flexibility in there as we watch the numbers roll out in the future. We've got infrastructure. We've got some schools that don't have lunchrooms. They've been using a classroom for lunchrooms, so we want to make sure we take care of that. We've got still an interim downtown school where we're talking about a small amount of money to do a roll-up for the downtown school and planning for that. We have major preventative maintenance we need to continue to work on. And then finally, we need to spend about $53.8 million on technology, which will include making sure that we have wireless in all of our schools, as well as other infrastructure updates. So the total package right now is $655.2 million that we're proposing. Would be nice if we got all that money up front, but that's not how it happens. It gets peanut buttered over all of the years. The first year we get a half a collection, because that happens in the spring, summer, and we roll it into the next year's budget. And you can see the last year we get half of the collection. So that's really important as we start to think about which building can we build first, how do we think about all that, because it is a cash flow issue. We need to make sure that we have capacity for our students, and we need to make sure that we're prioritizing in the correct way. So that's part of our challenge and our work also. Now Lucy's going to walk you through the handouts that you've got there as far as what we're actually proposing.
Hello everyone. You should have an 11 by 17 handout, and on one side you'll see the map that's up on the screen. And what you're seeing is all the yellow dots are either replacement elementary schools or new elementary schools. The orange dots are 4 middle schools that we're either going to refurbish or be new. The blue dots are high schools. The black circles are interim sites. So if you turn on the other side, you'll see a matrix with each of the service areas on your left. So I'm going to go down to the Madison service area, and for instance, you'll see Schmitz Park at Genesee Hill, and it's indicating that this is a new school replacing the existing Schmitz Park building. And then you'll see under capacity added, you'll see 0 to 149, and this is what Peggy alluded to. She mentioned that there are 7 elementary schools throughout the school district, 2 in West Seattle, that would be Schmitz Park at Genesee Hill and Arbor Heights, in which we would build for flexibility either 500 or 650 seats. And so that is why you see the range there in capacity. And then you see on the right-hand column that the school will be complete and open in 2015. Also on the right hand, you see a list of schools. It's approximately about 40 schools listed. Those are schools other than the major work that we're doing, that we're going to be doing seismic work. In 2009, we had a consultant, structural engineers, go out to all the schools, and even though they didn't see or find anything with any significant structural problems, we in all our BTA and BEX levies do seismic work to do upgrades to the buildings. So there's seismic work in BTA 3, and we're just carrying that forward into BEX IV. And with that, I'm going to look for the interim deputy superintendent.
Okay. Oops.
Well, Peggy's going to take the slides.
Lucy and Tom wants to make sure that if you've got green cards that are being passed up, that they collect them for us, and we will turn it over to Bob Boucher.
Hi, my comments will be brief, but this isn't just about construction and buildings, and it's really important that we talk to you a little bit about the school district's operations levy. For some of you that have been around for a while, a lot of people would call it the M&O levy. So a couple of things, and I think this probably strikes more than anything else how important this particular levy is. If you take a look at the pie chart, you can see the green to the right-hand side. Currently, the Seattle Public Schools general fund budget, that's the day-to-day operations, that's paying for the transportation, for the teachers, for the instructional assistants, for the utilities, for the operations day-to-day, is $591 million. 27% of that comes from one source, and that is the local levy. That local levy, to put in a perspective, if you were to pull that out, would be a reduction of approximately $160 million a year in funding. For a lot of people, this brings up or hits a sensitive nerve. Yes, the state has been sued 3 times. In all 3 cases, the state has lost and has promised to provide full funding. We're now in its 3rd iteration over almost 30 years, and the McCleary case and a decision the uphold by the state Supreme Court is that basic education needs to be fully funded. It's not there yet. And in the meantime, we absolutely have to rely on this funding. Part of what it's paying for are some of the things that are listed up here, including for middle schools and high schools, a 6-period day, teachers and instructional assistants above and beyond that which the state funds. This is particularly sensitive in areas including ELL populations, special education populations, our transportation system that we have here in Seattle, all kinds of activities athletics, arts, extracurricular, that's all being funded out of the local levy. Currently, the local levy is based upon the amount of state and federal revenue you take in years prior. As Seattle grows with its enrollment, so grows the levy. So the proposal that is tentatively together now is a 3-year operations levy, $167 million in 2014, $185 in 15, and in 2016, $200 million. For those, this is more info you might not want to know, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. The state lids. If any of you have ever heard of a reference to a levy lid, the state lids how much you can ask for. So, Seattle right now is projecting 3 years ahead that they're going to qualify for $200 million. If in fact they only qualify for $190 million, that is the limit of what they will be able to collect. A lot of people ask, why don't we fund some of the improvements in schools and modernizations or buy more technology out of a larger operations levy? Quick answer, because it is lidded by the state. It can only be for Seattle 37% of prior state and federal eligible revenues. By the way, something not mentioned earlier, this entire slide deck is on the district's website.
Excuse me, sir.
I want to also answer the question, what will it cost projected now for a homeowner if they were to say yes to these two levies? So in February, if people said yes to a BEX levy and yes to an operations levy of the size that we've talked to you about, along with the current BTA levy being collected, in 2013 coming up, the amount of taxes being collected on a home of $400,000 would be approximately $998. If you move that forward a year with the passage of these two measures, we believe that where assessed value is, the tax base, the proposed increase for these two would be at approximately $1,112. So quick math down at the bottom tells you that in 2014, the increase would be about $114, a little over $10 a month for those two measures. In 2015, it would grow slightly to $144 a year over 2013, about $12 a month. And in 2016, because of projections to what we all hope is a more recovering economy and our assessed valuation, especially the commercial tax base, we believe it will be about $142 over what it currently is, also just about $12 a month. You want to talk about next steps? Last slide. Benchmarking, comparisons. The slide you're seeing here is the 2012 current total education levy rate per thousand of assessed value. And what it's doing is comparing it back against some of our surrounding school systems. One of the things that Seattle, if you will, enjoys is that we have a very, very robust commercial tax base. Something that some other school systems don't have to the degree that we have here. When we put that together with the residential values, our overall tax rate, as you can see by the first red bar, is about $2.40 per thousand. The proposed would take us up on the green bar just slightly above that. We talked about that a moment ago. Would still be among the lowest here in the Puget Sound area. So our hope is that our tax base will continue to grow and that we can actually keep what I referred to as about a $10 to $12 a month request right at those levels, if not a little bit lower. Peggy, you want to talk a little bit about next steps?
Thank you, Bob. And I also want to just take a moment now that we've got a lot of people in here to recognize our host, the principal of Madison Middle School, Henderson Carlisle. Can you raise your hand and Okay. Let's look at next steps. Community engagement meetings. We've got 3 of them here scheduled. We've got one more. October 4th, you heard us talk about FACMAC. We will be taking all the information that we get from all of our community meetings as well as reviewing our October 1st enrollment projections, and we will be having the advisory committee meeting to review that. October 10th, we have a board work session where we'll spend time with the board talking about what our findings, what the community recommendations have been, and then they will react to everything that we have learned and make some recommendations back to the staff. On October 17th, we will then introduce to the board staff recommendations for the BEX IV levy, as well as the M&O. November 7th, the board will take action, and then February 12th is when we vote on both levies. So that's our next steps and our timelines for where we're heading. Now, what we want to do as far as the rest of the time today is make sure that we spend some time doing some questions and answers off of the green cards that you've had. And what staff have been up here doing is sorting and stacking them so that we could answer those questions that have the highest frequency. And then we will move to a live mic where people will be able to answer or ask their questions to the mic and to us directly. We have found that people sometimes are shy about the mic, so we wanted to make sure that we provide this opportunity. And then finally, we'll stay afterwards so that people can talk to us directly if they want to have time to do that. So with that, Lucy and I will take a shot at some of the first ones. I have a question here. Superintendent Bonda's job number 1 is to provide safe learning environments for students. Where is the equity in planning Arbor Heights timetable to be 2019 for their remodel? And we've gotten a lot of questions about that. And one of the things that the staff have been struggling with is the cash flow issue, needing to meet enrollment and capacity needs, and knowing that we really, and the capital staff really want to remodel Arbor Heights. So that's some of our challenges. And what I'm hearing from the community is that they want us to see what can we do to move it forward, that they really would like us to move that timeline forward. So we will be taking that information and that request back as part of our analysis. So thank you for that.
Okay, I'll read the next question. What is the intended use for Fairmont? Neighborhood school, K-5 STEM home? This should be addressed clearly if we are to support the levy. And I'm going to turn that question to Phil.
Got it. Okay. First, it feels good to be back in West Seattle. I was actually here for 5 years and at West Seattle High for almost 5 years, and it just feels good to be back in the community. The good news is that STEM school is a very successful program. STEM is supported throughout the country. There's partners, there's scientists, there's mathematicians. It's just one of those good things to do. That's the good news. The good news is also that enrollment's up, that we're going to have to open some schools to help support our new schools' programs and services, and that STEM is one of those. The question is, how do we do that? So, teaching and learning, executive directors, myself, have been in conversations at the district office trying to look at different services and programs ranging from special education services all the way to APP and everything in the middle, including STEM. Have we landed on a place to put STEM? No. That's why we're here tonight, because we need your input. We need your input so that we know how to go forward to present our proposals to the school board. So the good news is it's successful. Is it going away? No. Is it supported? Yes. The next step is, how do we support you in a building?
Next question, and this is for Schmitz Park. When will the district plan the interim so that we can be sure about BEX projects? And this is for Schmitz Park at Genesee Hill. The intended completion date is in 2015, so the interim would occur in 2014 at the Bourne site.
Wait, can you clarify? Schmitz Park will go to Boren prior to going to Genesee Hill. Is that what you just said?
Oh, I'm sorry. Schmitz Park would go directly to Genesee Hill. Sorry. Clarify on that. Whew. The intermediate plan. We've been working with the principal about providing core facilities for Schmitz Park. We have added restrooms and a number of classes, and we will continue to work with the principal about placing portables and so forth.
We talk about in our planning with BACMAC and with the community about short-term planning, that's the next upcoming year, long-term planning, which is what are we doing for BEX, and then how do we get from here to BEX, because we have enrollment growth that we have to deal with. We have to get from here to there. And what we are planning to do with BACMAC and our next group is to land the BEX proposal, and then we need to be very, very deliberately talking about next year and how do we get from here to BEX. And those are part of the conversations that will start as soon as we get the November vote from our school board.
Someone had a really good question regarding trying to move up and get some of the projects done earlier. And their question is, the last BEX IV work session with the board, there was talk about switching the levy to a bond. What is the status of this? So several things that we're analyzing right now are taking into account, but here are a couple of facts you need to know about both. First of all, a bond measure requires a 60% yes vote, also has a validation requirement backed up against the last and most recent general election. Qualification for that would put you in 2013 against the last general election of November 2012, which is a presidential election. The validation requirement would be what we would believe to be sizable. The next thing is that issuance of bonds carries a hefty price, and the price on that is, very honestly, is the debt service, the interest expense that would be incurred with that. So if we're going to do the work of $650 million and yield that on a net basis, that measure is going to have to be considerably larger. That doesn't mean that we aren't examining other ways to try and financially move some of the work up. We've also been doing some analysis work in terms of looking either at tax anticipation or revenue anticipation notes, short-term borrowing. That is a possibility, but not unlike anything else in life, that also comes at a cost. So it's a little bit, to use an analogy, when you really want whatever it is you want, you use that charge card, it comes with a finance charge put against it. Part of what we're trying to take a look at is where the economy is going to be going in the next year or two. If in fact the environment is positive enough and that we're able to move up some projects and be able to do some of the financing without incurring considerable expense, if you will, with that, that is something that we already are taking a look at. But again, right now, we're looking at a capital levy that doesn't incur costs, has a simple majority versus a 60% with a validation requirement as well for passage.
This next question is for the Eckstein Middle School service area. Why build another elementary school on the Thornton Creek property? 2 schools on the same property? Well, the Thornton Creek site is an unusual site that it's 9.9 acres, and on a number of these schools we did hire an outside consultant and to do feasibility studies. So when we laid out the new building on the Thornton Creek site, there was ample room on the site for both schools. In addition to that, and I know this is really important to the Thornton Creek community, a lot of soccer players there, the site is big enough that we could put a regulation soccer field on the site. In addition to parking on the site, we could amply provide for like 60 parking spots on the site. That's how big the site is.
I've got a couple questions about demographics. This one I like in particular. Your demographics were dead wrong, and you closed 2 schools, resulting in today's issues with portables. What are you doing different this time? Take a look at West Seattle. There are lots of babies and big bellies. Aim high. I think that you are right. We have gone back to look at what our formula is for projections, how we're looking at resident projections. It's why we have brought FactMath online, to make sure that we are doing the best that we can do. Doing projections and forecasting is both an art and a science. And we need to make sure that our science is sound. One of the things that you will notice is that we have had a lot of rezoning in our community. You will see a lot of cranes. You're going to seeing a lot of higher density housing out there. And when you use live birth projections, which is a way that demographers use formulas to predict how many kids will be in any certain area, when you change zoning, it really changes that formula and whether we should be using low, moderate, or high. So that's part of what we're revisiting, to make sure that we are as accurate as we can be. One of our other concerns right now is that we know that the housing market may change. And in fact, we have not had as much out-migration in the city because houses are harder to sell, people are staying put more. What happens if the housing market changes? Will that change and we may see people actually moving out to the suburbs? So that's another thing that we're looking at. So we have to continually analyze that, and that's why that is a rolling work for us. And I would love to say that FactMath is done, but they're always with us looking at those projections along the way, because they can change.
This one is a hot one to the Arbor Heights community. Why Arbor Heights projected completion 7 years away when Schmitz Park's building is only 3? Arbor Heights kids need a healthy environment. It seems more urgent than Schmitz Park's needs. We hear you. We know you want the schedule moved up, and we're certainly going to try in every way to move that schedule up. What we have is a 6-year levy, and so the cash flow is over a 6-year period, so we make collections every year on that. And I know that the Arbor Heights community wants the building sooner, and we're going to certainly look at that.
So one of the things I want to do is we're going to take just a couple more of the written questions, but we want to also have people come up to the mic. Tom, where would you like people to start gathering?
If we could line up over on the right side, and I'll have a microphone there. We'll just take your 1-minute comments or less.
All right, well, people are moving over to that side. I have a question on downtown school. Who and how has the need for a downtown school been analyzed or demonstrated? One of the things, as I was talking about rezoning and shifts in demography, what we are seeing is a real high number of students coming from certain zip codes in the downtown area that are moving, or we're having to enroll in Queen Anne up at Hay. Hay has really started to be over capacity like many of our other schools. And so we asked the Downtown Association as well as our outside demographer to look at that and tell us, are we seeing more people with families living downtown? They have a right to have a school or a place to go also. So that's part of the analysis that we are doing and we will continue to do. Right now we believe that there is enough enrollment growth in that area that we need to provide another school in that area.
This question is on World School. Questions about World School. Is it going to TT Minor, right? Why not say so? How was that program placement decision made and what was the process? We are in discussions with World School. Nothing is final yet. World School wants to be located in the central area. So we've looked at a number of schools and that is still being worked out with World School. No final decision has been made yet.
Folks, just a reminder about the green sheets. The white box, you can probably see it. The lid is hanging over the side. That's a deposit box for your feedback forms. So when you leave, if you'd be kind enough to drop it off, that'd be very helpful. And as I mentioned, that's going to FACMAC. It's also going to the board for review. Thank you. All right. So 1 minute, questions, comments directed to Peggy or Lucy, Bob, anyone else?
Hi, thank you. I can't make the McClure meeting. I'm up in the Whitman, Hamilton actually area. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, there's been talk with the arena and Key Arena being available and not possibly having any tenants about moving a high school to a comprehensive high school to the Key Arena, where we already own Memorial Park, as Lincoln has no fields, has no athletic capability at all on site, and leaving Lincoln as an interim school. And was wondering, you know, this is kind of a new development and the availability. Have you considered doing something on that property, doing some kind of swap for Memorial Stadium or something with the city as part of the deal, and would consider moving comprehensive high school back to Queen Anne as opposed to having another one at Lincoln, which is so close to Roseville?
So you're right, that is hot off the press given the new deal that's out there. And I have heard several people within city council staffers start talking about that. We've not had a formal conversation about what the options could be related to that, but it's part of the questions that we are asking them.
Hi, I don't have a question. I brought you a present. These photos were taken in my room last spring when the pipe rusted through completely and dissolved, and I had an hour and 45-minute flood in my classroom when students were there. The water was coming directly from the boiler, so it was hot. It took 2 IAs, every effort they had to keep it out of my room and into the hall where the custodian pushed it out to the emergency doors. It was not a safe situation at all. I do have all these pictures for you. There's also a photo of the tiles popping off my floor 2 years ago. I'm in one of the original rooms from when the building was first built, and the tile is extremely old. So here's your present.
Thank you.
Alicia's from Arbor Heights, by the way, if you didn't notice the yellow t-shirt, as am I. Couple of things to say. Number one, if you were at the last meeting sometime last spring, and I mentioned that my room was 45 degrees in the winter and it was really cold. Well, good news, I'm in a new room and now it was 95 the other day. And I understand it's going to be cold again, so we didn't solve my problem at all. I'm an Arbor Heights resident, former parent, and teacher. I walk every day, I see a lot of families, and I encourage people to come to Arbor Heights. All I can tell them is, we've got a great school, wonderful parents, but I can't say a thing about the building. And when they say, so what's with the building? It's falling down, and I have to agree with them. Technology is great. I've got a chalkboard that's probably as old as the building is, I can't even think technology because I can't wash my hands in warm water. We've got so many things that we need, and I recognize the need out there, but you guys, this school is falling apart. Please help us.
Hi, I'm Heidi Alessi. I'm the parent of a second grader at our brand new school, K-5 STEM. So first, I want to thank everyone involved in the district who did start this school, and we are very glad the board approved it. It's been an exciting process, very invigorating to be a part of developing the mission and vision of the school. We quickly formed a PTA, and we have a very strong community in a very short amount of time. But let's talk reality. You mentioned it being a success. We're 3 weeks into school and have no supplies. I toured the supply closet today. It's empty. We are told that the approval process for supplies is about 35 to 45 days backlogged, and then after that, fulfillment is another 90 days. We don't have paper. We have staplers, but no staples. We have a very small amount of paint and no paintbrushes. We have 2 science labs that were promised to us that are sitting there empty. So I raise this just because when we're talking about the levy, I think K-5 STEM has to be addressed in that, because these are promises that were already made. And if we're not going to fulfill promises that were already made to parents who made a big leap of faith, how can we trust that any promises made with this levy will be fulfilled? Second point, just on location for K-5 STEM, you asked for feedback. Fairmount Park seems like a logical choice. Schmitz Park seems like a logical choice. I don't think any of us really care what it is. We just want one because it was promised to us. Thank you.
Hi, I have a personal thing, but I think I'm speaking for a lot of families in West Seattle where we were affected by the last round of boundary changes. And so we decided to move to our new boundary school, and it's been a great experience. But our house happens to be in a place where we could easily get shifted around. And I've seen several times that the boundary changes are something that's going to be played with as one of the interim solutions as the money starts to come in. And I was wondering if you have considered the impact that that has on families. I've seen parents here who I know who have kids at 2 different schools. It's so hard to be involved. I am staying at home, so I was able to switch both kids and switch them successfully, but I'm hoping that as they roll out again, which I understand they're necessary, that it's done with a lot of consideration and not just a mess. And maybe even special consideration to families who've already been impacted once in the same community.
Thank you. And as everybody probably knows, when you bring new buildings online, obviously that may change some of our boundary issues and our boundary discussions. So thank you for that point.
Hi. What I'd like to say is a guided meditation, which is I'd like you to imagine, and this one you could actually do in the middle of winter. I encourage you to do it, to make your thermostat 55 degrees for a week. Take your thermostat to 55 degrees and then imagine that you reach down, right now, in your mind's eye, to a folder you need to grab. And when you're grabbing the folder, you see rat poop. Now I want you to then imagine that it's cold and flu season, this week has gone by, you have a cold, you have a coughing fit. In this coughing fit, you decide, I'm going to run to the bathroom and get a drink of water. But then you remember, I can't drink the water because it's not potable and it's not safe. So then I want you to imagine there's one more. What was it? I sent you a letter. But I doubt you would read the letter. So I want you to imagine rat poop. You can't drink the water. You can't breathe the air. And you're cold. She'll get to that. So that's just my guided meditation. I'd like to thank my daughter for encouraging me to come.
We read everything, ma'am, everything.
I am also a teacher at Arbor Heights. I'm a resident of Arbor Heights. My children went to school there. I've been in the building for 25 years. I have had mold on my walls. I had asbestos underneath my classroom. I had standing water under my classroom. When Joseph Olszewski was superintendent, I had a child with leukemia. My classroom was about 50 to 55 degrees. He brought out space heaters, which blew all of the fuses. Our conditions are deplorable. It's not a safe environment for children. I have had a rat actually run right across my classroom, along with the droppings. I had to go out and buy a water dispenser because my water wasn't safe to drink out of my pocket. There is absolutely no reason Arbor Heights should be pushed back to 2019. It's not a safe environment for our children. It's not a good learning environment. And how are we going to get families to stay with us in the conditions that their children are learning in?
I'm not here about Arbor Heights, but I do have to say, watch out for the symptoms of hantavirus. I'm a parent of a child in Chief South High School. He went to this school. I'm here about another school. How many people here have ever heard of Indian Heritage? Okay, about 25% of you. How many people have seen the murals at Wilson Pacific? Okay, 2 people. All right, so I'm going to throw some facts on you. Well, Indian Heritage used to be here, talking about Heidi, your promise is broken. It used to be at Boren. It was moved to Wilson Pacific facility 25 years ago. The promise was it was never going to be moved again. Indian Heritage is now an online school run out of a shopping mall. And it has 20 students. Indian Heritage at one time graduated 100% of its students. This district now graduates 46% of its native students. Indian Heritage was an all-draw city thing. We need that school back, and we need a commitment, and we'd like your support in advocating for a permanent site for Indian Heritage at Wilson Pacific when it's rebuilt.
So I have a son who graduated from Arbor Heights last year, and he's now attending Denny Middle School. And then on the flip side, I have a 4-year-old who's in preschool. And the conversation that's going around my dining room table is, if Arbor Heights School is not going to be addressed prior to 2019, and I mean way prior to 2019, why in the world, as a responsible parent, would I put my child in that unhealthy environment? I have nothing but amazing things to say about that staff. We have an exemplary leader in our new principal. That is not my concern. How can you tell me it is okay to send my baby girl into a mold-infested cafeteria where they're eating? I'm not talking something behind the kitchen sink. No, don't drink the water signs everywhere. I mean, these are horrible conditions. We turn on Sunday night to watch Extreme House Makeover. Well, blow it up and you have Arbor Heights Elementary School. The district has got to step up and make us a top priority for the health of our children.
I'm fortunate enough to be a parent and a teacher at Arbor Heights. My son graduated last year. He's going on to Washington Middle School. My daughter is over here. She's a 3rd grader at Arbor Heights. And I'm a resource room teacher. And I'm thrilled to be there. The husband and I had never regretted making the choice for the Arbor Heights community. We did not choose it for the building. We thought eventually we'd see a new one. 6 years ago, I, as a new parent in the district, volunteered for the last levy to do some phone calling, telling people how important the facilities are for our students. I'd like to do that again this year, but I don't want to tell them that the worst facility in the district is at the end of the line.
I kind of thought I'd never actually make it up to the front of the line.
My name is Marianne Weber. I'm a parent at Arbor Heights Elementary. I do not wear yellow, so I'm the stealth from the crowd here. I work in healthcare, and I know that my area of interest is regulated up the wazoo by OSHA. We have regulations for everything for maintaining a safe working environment. I assume there must be something similar for a public school building, both as a school and also as a workplace. You've heard our grievances about our issues with our school. My question is, how does the Seattle Public School District ensure that buildings are meeting at least minimum OSHA, DSHS regulations? Because this is not a safe workplace environment, and it's not a safe environment for a school. So how has our school been inspected? I guess my question is that. Whose job is it? And how have these inspections been documented? Can we access these records to even assure ourselves that someone has been coming out to see the conditions in our school and document them properly?
So just let me do a couple of quick answers on that. Of course, the Public Health Department has authority for certain types of inspections and has been out there, as well as our risk management. And I think that that's one of our ongoing concerns, is how do we make sure that we get to a place where everybody feels like their school is healthy and safe. We've had to look at water throughout the district on whether in fact it's potable water, or we have to provide alternative drinking ways and supplying water for students. It's an ongoing issue for us.
I feel a little out of place. I'm actually from Northeast Seattle and have a great concern about the Thornton Creek property. And maybe you should build them a new school. And, I'm wondering where the students are going to come from for this 650 feet school that you want to put on Thornton Creek property. It really, I don't know if you've all been there, it really doesn't seem as big as you say it is. I mean, we really need that space in Wedgwood. We're not going to have much space for our kids to play or exercise or for our sports teams. And there certainly isn't enough room for the traffic that's going to create. That's almost going to be as many kids on that property as our middle school. And I didn't really feel like you answered the question about why you're putting two elementary schools together on the same property. Are you getting rid of Thornton Creek School, the existing school? Why are you putting two elementary schools on the same property? And how will you justify the traffic that's going to put on our neighborhood?
So as we're looking at enrollment projections, that's one of the areas that we're projecting the highest level of enrollment growth. And so we are planning at this point in our proposal to have a neighborhood school put on that 9-point-something acre lot, where we'll have the small school on one side, the large school on the other. But what we're hearing from the community is that there are three soccer fields there that are very well utilized by the community, and so there will be significant impact there. And so we are looking at how do we do that analysis, how do we make sure that we are mitigating those, if in fact that's the solution that we put forward in the future.
Hi, I'm Joe Swire from Nova High School. Thanks to all the parents and also the staff and board for coming tonight. I know we disagree with you, but I know you're laboring under some difficult conditions, so appreciate your efforts. We moved in Nova High School, we moved 4 years ago from our old beloved building in Man. And at that time, one of the things we were told is that it wouldn't be so bad to move to Meany because we would get a half-time librarian, which we did get, but that was then subsequently taken away. So we hope this time that there's a stronger commitment to Nova and our continued viability in the district. Some of the concerns we have is that when we met earlier with the architects, we indicated we wanted to have transgendered bathrooms. We have a very high transgendered population in Nova. We think we serve that population well. So we hope that you all will fulfill those commitments to those students. And secondly, we have one idea of expanding Nova to 6 and 8 program, and we're concerned that those commitments to allow us to be able to expand in the new site, which we think will go to a man building that you guys followed through with, that we hope. The final thing I just want to say, not only on behalf of NOVA, but I think on behalf of all the schools, one way I think that you guys can look to the future and save money for all of us is to be more ecologically sustainable. We all know that climate change is an unfolding catastrophe, and so we hope that you will do things like light sensors. In our school, there's a place where the lights have been on for over 3 years in a row. We've called this to people's attention, and so, you know, being green saves green, and we hope you'll invest in things like cisterns, like green roofs and solar, and just speaking of water, I know people are concerned about water. We could have great water systems. Right now we have clean water going to our toilets. We don't need that. We need to have clean water to drink, but we can have cisterns for gardening and other things. So thank you very much.
Before I get to what I came to say, I just want to let all the families of Arbor Heights know that in all of my discussions with parents all over West Seattle, everyone is with you. No one questions or doubts that this is absolutely, it's deplorable and needs to be taken care of quickly. That said, I am a STEM parent, and I suppose I come up here because I am a little confused. At no point in the design process, in the community meetings about the establishment of the K-5 STEM school, was there ever a question about what is this going to be? It was always a school that was going to be at Boren for a couple of years and find a permanent home as an option school in West Seattle. So why this is up in the air is confusing, because we as stakeholders have never been asked that question. We've never brought that question to the table. So it's curious as to where this is coming from, because that was never part of the discussion, and it was never a question that we as stakeholders have ever had. That said, I echo what Heidi said earlier, that we're just looking for a home. We have lots of ideas that we're willing to share with you about where we can land, but that we remain a school in West Seattle is not one of those questions. Thank you.
Hi there. I have a son who is starting his 4th year at Schmitz Park this year. And 3 weeks ago I started my kindergarten daughter at Alki because our reference area had changed and she could not get into kindergarten with her brother at Schmitz Park. I know there's lots of other families in this situation, and I just wanted to convey that, well, I also have a 3-year-old who's coming up, and they all 3 go to different schools that start at 8:45. And then the 2 older ones both get out at 3. So I could go on and on about our matrix of carpools, but I feel like it severely impacts my husband and I's ability to get involved, participate in fundraising, keep track of picture day, help our children learn. And so I'm just here to sort of speak for those families and encourage you, when you are looking at options for Fairmount Park or the neighborhood schools and redrawing boundaries again, that you take into account, please minimize the disruption and keep families together however you can.
We may not get through everyone, but just a note that staff is staying for the next foreseeable future to talk to you one-on-one. So if we can't get through the whole line, thanks.
Hi, I'm a parent from Lafayette, yet another overcapacity school in West Seattle. We are not on the list of projects, which is fine, but obviously we need to know what is going to be done for us to address our capacity issues. The assumption, of course, is that with Schmitz Park and Fairmount that there will be some reshuffling of children. So the first question is that what the plan is, the ultimate plan to address Lafayette's concerns? And sort of the follow-up to echo what a couple other people have said, that boundary redraw was a hot mess, and it I think needs to be fixed, but there really does need to be some consideration about what's happening to the families.
And just so that you know, it was one of the reasons as we were looking at the STEM at Boren that we created an option. So because we really didn't want to do mandatory boundary changes to alleviate some of those issues, I'm sure that we are going to be talking about how can we do optional changes, because it is our wish to not disrupt families through this process. So thank you for that.
Hi, my name is Christian Pearson. I'm a little nervous. Recently moved here. Thank you. We have a 2-year-old second grader at Arbor Heights. When we first moved here, was amazed with the school district coming down to the, I'm a stay-at-home father, been going to the offices, getting all the paperwork. Everyone's been so kind, so helpful. We were first at Stanislaus, now we're at Arbor Heights because of he got tested in the spectrum, and it's been this long road, and we get into Arbor Heights and we're like, finally, yes. And then after our son goes to school there, we find out about the building. And my background's architecture. My responsibility is health, safety, and welfare, and I'm just appalled by the fact that 2019 and these stories I'm hearing, it's disturbing. And I'm a kick butt volunteer. You know, I am an asset. My son is an asset, and you're going to lose it and lose a lot of this here. I mean, I'm just been amazed at the parents and the staff at Arbor Heights, and to see this turnout just makes me feel great about the school. But I'm here not just for my son, but for their kids too, and it's deplorable. It needs to happen sooner than 2019. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Terry Ota. I am a parent at Arbor Heights. I have 2 children there right now, my first grader and my kindergartner, who begged to come with me tonight, which I was kind of discouraging them because it's such a long meeting and they should be at home with their dad watching Monday Night Football, you know. But they wanted to come, and I think that's indicative of the staff that you see here that really care about our students. I totally agree with the previous speaker. We cannot wait till 2019. And my concern is that great families who will not be able to get past the conditions of the building to go to Arbor Heights. And you're going to just kill a wonderful community of parents that are very involved, and a wonderful group of teachers who care about our students. And we just can't wait until 2019. I have a 2-year-old son also who I'd like to send to Arbor Heights. But under your current proposal, he'll be in 4th grade by the time the school is rebuilt. And that's a very hard thing to have to consider. So thank you for your time and for listening to all of us tonight.
I've been a part of the Arbor Heights school community for 15 years. I started there doing my student teaching and thought, wow, what a wonderful staff, what wonderful kids. I would like to stay here. And I was lucky enough to get a teaching job there. I left temporarily to have children, and that was still in the time of the school choice. We're not in the Arbor Heights reference area. But it was a no-brainer for me. If I can get into Arbor Heights, that's where my kids are going to go because the staff is wonderful, the community is wonderful. My children now go there, but there are all these pressing things in your mind about the state of the building, and all of the things you've heard before are very true. We also forgot to mention the ants that are crawling all over everything. So we have a deplorable condition for our building, yet I still want my children to be there with the staff and their cohorts. But I am afraid that more wonderful families are going to start leaving our building.
This is the last
So I know about Arbor Heights because I was an Arbor Heights parent, and I was in a 5th grade classroom doing a mural project, and I noticed ants crawling all along the side of the window there, so I know there's a lot of problems with the structure of the school. Please help Arbor Heights. I'm here today as a K-STEM parent. I feel like as a parent, I need to be a strong advocate for my children, and I felt that STEM promised us Well, we were promised 2 labs that were functioning when school opened. There are no supplies in there. The water is not running in any of the classrooms, including the science labs, so-called. And please, allow water to function so we can do rudimentary instruction with our kids. Please carry out the promises that you told us. As a parent, I would like you to remember that when you make decisions, you affect children, you affect families, you affect our communities. All of our STEM parents, families moved from other schools to be present at this location. And we're not being given the support to carry out the vision that we were promised. There are no notebooks in the supply room. There are no lined papers for students to write on. There are no papers such as craft paper, scissors, newsprint. There are no staples in the office for the secretaries. I went to Target and bought 6 cartons of staples so the secretary can staple some paperwork. This is not the way a school should be functioning. Please.
So staff will be here. Let me just mention again in the lower left-hand corner of the large 11 by 17, 2 things. One, we have the website, SPS BEX. You can see all of the handouts from tonight. Also, the capacity of Seattle Schools email address. Please feel free to continue to send comments to us. Please turn in your green sheets in the deposit box upstairs, and staff's now available for you, and thanks so much for coming tonight.
And I want to echo what Tom says. It is absolutely your feedback and your information that will allow us to make some new recommendations. So thank you very much, everybody who came to help us through this.